Well, hello and welcome back to the latest episode of my Love Machine podcast. Now, when it comes to male and female communication, there are often many misunderstandings, and this can cause massive problems in relationships. So today, to help me discuss this funny and interesting topic, I've got the wonderful dating coach all the way from Ireland, the wonderful Frances Kelleher. Welcome, Frances. How are you doing?
How are you, James? Thanks so much for having me.
I am really good. And I'm really excited to have you. I know that we've spoken before on social media, but we've never actually spoken on the phone or on any sort of interview at all. So I really wanted to get you on here. And it's taken a little while, but I'm really excited because you've got such a great following. And I've watched you grow, and you do so many radio shows and TV shows, and I love your posts. So thank you so much for joining me. Can you tell anyone that's listening who you are and a bit more about why you got into the dating coaching industry?
Yeah, sure. And thanks for that introduction, James. You're so kind. So I'm from Ireland, and I've had lots of other jobs in the past. I was in finance, I was in tourism, and I always, would love to have set up my own business. But for various reasons, the time wasn't right and the situation wasn't right. And now that I have set up my own business, I love it. And why I got on into this particular business was I started off as a life coach. So I started off, I studied that, and I really want to help people. That was the main thing, and I feel, coaching is the way to go, really. It's the way to move people forward, and people are getting into it more now, even, every day. And also it was so interesting to me, the psychology of the mind, how we work as humans, and all that. I was always reading books on psychology and the brain and all that. And then I niched down to become a dating coach because, I started reading about the loneliness epidemic. This is way before COVID, the COVID pandemic or any of that. There's such a tragedy now in the world that loads of people are lonely, and it's an epidemic. It's epidemic proportions. I think in the UK you have a minister for loneliness assigned, just to help people with that alone. It's become such a problem. So that struck me. And I thought as well, the modern life, we've kind of, begun to really chase the wrong things, career, money and all that. And I think people are left lonely with that. They look around and they say, I have all these things. I mean, I have even clients that have said that to me. I have everything. I have my own house. I have my own money. I have everything, but I've nobody to share it with. And ultimately, we know from the research and the studies that, happiness comes from the relationships in your life. It's the people in your life. It's the connections in your life. That's what really gives you the quality of life. So that's how I niched down to that area. And also because it's almost becoming, mystical trying to meet the right person. It seems to be getting more difficult, especially with the online apps and everybody being online and not the feedback even I'm getting from my clients is not being able to meet people in real life. We've kind of lost the ability to do that. So with all the connection, all the social media, ultimately people are getting less connected, as it were. So that's how I branched into this niche.
Fantastic. So do you coach men and women, or just women, or just men?
Yes, I'm primarily a woman's coach, but loads of men come to me as well, and I can help them just as well. So it's funny, my clientele are 50-50. So yeah, both.
Brilliant. Okay, so as we know, when it comes to male and men and women, there are many misunderstandings and confusion that goes on in normal life, in relationships, in dating. So let's talk about that. What common problems do you see when it comes to misunderstandings between the different sexes?
Okay, well, I would say one of the biggest ones that I just could not ignore, and I see it even in my own marriage, is, the difference between, women wanting to talk out the problem. As women, we talk to vent, to de-stress, to relax. We're not necessarily looking for the solution. We just want someone to listen and for us to work through it, talking. So, and the men, when they have a problem, they don't want to talk at all. And the women are up to them, like even with my husband, I'd say, is everything all right? Do you want to talk about it? And he's like, no, I don't need to talk about it. So, we're thinking like women when we go to our men. So the men just want to, this famous saying about the man cave or the man den, they just want to retreat and they want to work through their solutions themselves. They want to feel that they've worked through it, and they want their own time to work it out in their head, whereas us women, we want to talk. So, even when the women have a problem, and I see this a lot, the man will immediately come in with the solution. Like, I'm just thinking of an example. If there was a problem at work in the office, so this girl did such and such, and the husband might say, oh, so why don't you, move desk? Don't sit near her if that problem's happening, if she's near you. And, we're not necessarily wanting the solution. We just want him to hear us and for us to vent. And then, like I say, it's the opposite with the man. We're giving our advice and our unsolicited advice a lot of the time and offering our opinion, and to say, talk about it, de-stress, and they don't want that. So I think that's a very common one that can escalate into a huge fight because, the woman's only trying to help and the man's only trying to help, but we're speaking different languages.
That's a common problem. That happens on dates as well. A woman might say she's got some sort of problem or an issue, and the guy will step in. I've got a solution for that. I can help you. But like you said, the woman doesn't want the solution. She wants to just talk about it and get it out of her, just clear the air and just mention it. And then the whole focus can be on this guy trying to save the woman. And I mentioned this quite a lot on my podcast. I called it the Superman complex, when the man tries to save her and tries to fix the problems. And women don't want that at all. But it can be the opposite as well. I think men can get quite offended if the woman's trying to offer change and trying to suggest that he change. And that becomes nagging, doesn't it, to some degree?
Yes, yes. Because I think, I suppose ultimately, look, we don't want our partner to feel that we have to change. We all want to be accepted the way we are, loved, flaws and all, And so definitely, and I think men do, that's so true, James. They do, take it to heart because I suppose men look for their woman's admiration, their approval. They want to be the hero swooping in. They want to be seen as the hero. So, if you word it differently and you approach it differently, the outcome can be very different. It can be very positive, rather than negative. I totally agree with you.
Brilliant. Okay. Let's go back to when couples first meet. They often meet on dating apps and online dating sites. And that is a whole world of misunderstandings and miscommunication too, isn't it? So,
oh, definitely.
So what do you see there? What do you see in their first interactions? What sort of common problems are there?
Do you know, James, I'm delighted you mentioned this because it's really hitting me more and more. Like the first thing is, the pictures. Like guys, I think it's a whole misunderstanding with the kind of, topless pictures being sent and even maybe nude pictures. The woman gets the picture. If she's talking to this guy, for a while or whatever, she gets the picture in and she's highly insulted because she's saying, how does he not know? Again, we want the men to be mind readers a lot of the time because we're intuitive ourselves and we're thinking like women. But how does he not know that I don't want to get this picture? This is offensive. But I think if women just step back and think that a man is thinking like a man, like men are so visual, they're thinking this might turn the woman on because that would turn a man on if they got a nude picture of a woman or a woman topless, and we hold it against them. And I think ultimately it's just a big misunderstanding because research has shown that men actually get a dopamine hit when they're looking at an attractive woman, a woman that they find attractive, eye to eye. It doesn't happen where they're looking anywhere else. There has to be eye contact. But that's how visual men are. They're more visual than women. So I think, it's not so much that the man is, I suppose, doing the wrong thing. It's just that he means well, he thinks he's doing the right thing, but she thinks it's the wrong thing because she's thinking like a woman. And also, I think with the ghosting situation and the breadcrumbing, for people who don't know those phrases, it's, somebody just disappearing when they've talked to you for ages and messaged you and they don't say, listen, I'm not feeling the connection, or listen, this isn't working. They just drop you, immediately and they say nothing else. I think there's a big misunderstanding as well there, as in men are very direct, I feel. They're simple, they're black and white. As well, men don't want to hurt anybody. Men are sensitive to, they don't want to hurt feelings. They don't want to say, listen, I don't like you, or I'm not feeling this connection is growing. So it's easier just to, put it down and leave it. And I think, women, we really value closure. We need closure. It's a big thing for us, we need the answer. We need the door shut. Whereas I think if we just accepted men are different, if he's disappeared, it's, back to he's just not that into you. It might be harsh and it might be hard to hear, but in the long run, it's better, because ultimately the worst thing I feel people can do with dating is have their time wasted. Time is precious, and the modern world, the time is getting more precious as the years go by, because people are so busy. So, instead of wondering, is he ill? Did he get hit by a car? And look, there's always the 1% that could happen, and you can always send one text saying, I hope you're okay. You haven't reached out to me in a while, but leave it at that if there's no answer, because more than likely it's just that he's not feeling it. And I feel us women waste a lot of time on that. Again, the misinterpreting, miscommunication.
I completely agree with you, but I would also say that women are very capable of ghosting men too. But
yes,
but women don't tend to breadcrumb men, do they? It tends to be the other way around.
Yeah, I think it tends to be the other way around. I agree, James. I suppose, again, maybe it's just the thinking, and I agree with the ghosting. It's both sides, that is so true. But yeah, I suppose it's just the male habits and the women habits, again, the difference there.
Yeah. No one means any harm. And you were mentioning before about the dirty photographs and things like that. It's not that the man's perverted. It could be. It could well be, actually, that they're perverted. But generally, it's just how men think. Men are told by their male friends, if you want to interest a woman, send some nice pictures like that. And they can't wait to date you then, to meet you. They'll be so excited. So if someone does that, just say thank you, but no thank you, and give them one more chance. Because you could be eliminating a perfectly good guy based on that misunderstanding. But if it continues, they don't take a hint, because men will always try and get things as quickly as they can and try and accelerate as fast as they can. Women are much slower, aren't they, when it comes to escalation? They want to slow things down, do things at their own pace when they're comfortable. But men will always try. But ultimately, the guy should probably try and chase a lot more. Guys do like to chase. But let's suppose that someone is going out on a date. What misunderstandings and obstacles do you get between men and women when it comes to first dates?
A big one, I think, James, and maybe you've come across this as well, is the paying of the bill. It's such a misunderstanding. Like, nobody knows what to do, that kind of situation. Nobody knows who to pay, like, who should pay, sorry. And it just, it's funny in another way, because, that guy on Seinfeld, he used to always talk about it. I can't remember his character's name, about, I just want her to offer, just to pull out her wallet. It's just the act of, making an effort. I don't want her to pay the bill. I just want her to show some appreciation, and some effort in paying it. So I think that's huge. I feel with guys, I feel us women, and, we don't appreciate, I suppose, the gestures as much as we should, maybe, and that will encourage them to do more, like that. If the guy pays for the meal and you go with him down the pub, for a few drinks or whatever it is, offer to pay then. It's just, like I always say, James, as well, if you're out with your sister or your best friend, you do not expect them to pay for everything every time you're out. Why should it be any different for the guy? And I've had a situation where there was a guy, and he was not in a very high paid job. It was a minimum wage job. And he met a girl. She never offered to pay for anything the first few dates. And he couldn't keep going financially. So he broke it off. He wasn't going to say to her, listen, I can't afford to pay for everything. Men are too proud for that. And you wouldn't expect him to. But so I would say definitely it's the sign of just appreciating the gesture, and, offer to pay for some of it as well. It doesn't have to even be the like I say, the dinner. If you go for drinks after, say, look, you paid for dinner. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Let me get this. Just the simple things.
It's the balance between the two, isn't it? Between respect and appreciation. And I absolutely agree with the whole, they should at least offer. Women should offer to pay. because the guy should treat her really, particularly on a first date. But if the woman doesn't offer, she could be seen to be a gold digger, and men do think that. And I have discussed this before in other podcasts, that sometimes you get the situation where if a woman wants to insist on paying her own way, then the man can assume that she's not interested by doing that. And that's not the case. Women just want to be independent. What I find interesting, though, is that when I met my wife 14 odd years ago, she was going out on dates with people, didn't really like them. And she was going to restaurants that had two menus, one menu for the guys and one menu for the women that had no prices in. So she was going there so she could order expensive meals just because she felt that they owed the time as well as the money. And I thought, thank goodness you didn't try that on me, because I would not have had that. Being a dating expert, I wouldn't have gone 14 years. So that's why there is a fine line. But then if the guy doesn't want to do that, don't take a woman to a restaurant that has two menus, or that's out of your budget or your comfort zone. So it's probably their own fault, really. And I laugh about it now, because she's a changed woman now, in theory. So what other things might there be when it comes to dating between men and women, misunderstandings?
I would say as well, another one which is huge, I feel, James, especially, when you're long-term with someone or you're married and you have a long-term partner, is the woman expecting the man to be the mind reader. And I mean, I'm guilty of this myself, we're very intuitive, us women. We're very tuned into our girlfriends and what they need and all that, And I think that we feel the guys should be the same, and they're not. Guys are direct, simple. Ask for what you need, ask for what you want, and he'll try and deliver it. Whereas, we nearly, I feel, sometimes we get upset with him not knowing what we want. Sometimes we don't even know what we want ourselves. We expect our guy to be everything to us, almost like one of our girlfriends. So I feel that's definitely a big one.
That can lead to sulking, can't it? Because women like to sulk. If they're not getting their demands met and they assume that the man knows what they want, the man will say, well, what's wrong? And they'll say, well, I'm okay, I'm fine. And the man doesn't know. The man has to guess and play a big guessing game of 10 questions to get down there. And even when he gets close, she won't tell him. That she'll sulk. The man won't know why she's sulking. And this can go on. This can go on, if you're not living together, this can go on for days or even weeks, can't it, of just sulking. So how would you suggest?
Definitely.
I've actually got a client going through a very similar thing at the moment. He's upset his girlfriend and doesn't really know why. And she won't speak to him. She's sulking, ignoring all his messages on WhatsApp, and doesn't know what to do. So he's coming to me every day, having little chats what to do. And my advice was, give her some space. And when she's ready, she'll want to talk to you then. And that is what's happened now. They got a phone call later today. So I'm waiting to hear what happens there. And I said, stop apologizing for something you don't know that you've done, because she won't appreciate that either, will she? If it's not a genuine, sincere apology, then she won't understand. So how would you advise a couple to deal with that sort of situation?
I would say, the woman needs to be more direct in her communication. Again, it's, like different languages. You need to speak the male language and say, look, this upset me. This is why, and okay, I'm getting moody and I'm getting upset because I expect you to be a mind reader, and that's not fair either. Bring your part to the table as well, and just say, it directly. Say, this is what's upset me, and then the guy can say, look, obviously I didn't mean to upset you. I'm sorry that I don't have the mind reading powers, but I'm only human, and just to say, look, how can we fix this together? How can we move forward now? And I think it's the open. I think the secret, James, and you'll probably agree with me on this, is, the basics of the relationships is open, clear communication. I think if you have that, my God, you're 70% there. Say what's on your mind. It's the thing of the woman holding it in, or he should know, he should do this, and the resentment building up. That's when love dies. If you can just get it off your chest, again, we're women, we need to get it off our chest to relax and vent, and you talk directly, then you're speaking the man language, and the man can come to you, speak his language, and he can, openly talk about it and move forward. I think that's hugely important.
It really is. I was just thinking when you were saying that, how hard it must be if you are married to a dating coach. Because then you're always going to be suspicious that they're playing games, they know the tricks, know what to say. Do you get that in your relationship? Yes.
Yes, like my husband could say to me, oh, did you read something recently in research or something? Yeah, that is so true.
It's a common problem. My wife goes in the kitchen outside my sessions, and even though I've got headphones on and she can't hear what the client is saying for confidentiality reasons, she can hear me giving the advice, and she knows my tricks. She knows what I have to say, my recommendations. So luckily, we don't have many arguments. If we did, I'd be in trouble because she wouldn't know what to do. And I think that brings me to something else. It's about giving each other space, isn't it? Sometimes, because that can be a misunderstanding. You mentioned the whole man cave business earlier, and that is true. Men like to retreat. They like to go off and have their space. And women don't understand that. They say, why don't you want to be with me? Why are you always walking away? Why don't you to sit down for 2 minutes? So do you think that's a common issue as well?
Very common. Yeah, definitely. I think like it's just, when you're in a relationship and you do everything together, and if you've children together and everything's done together, I think men feel they need to just have that little part of themselves to not completely get lost in the coupleness of it. And women too, that's what keeps desire alive as well. You're together, but you're separate people with separate interests, with that space within the bubble, as well as around the bubble that is you as a couple. And like I say, it keeps the desire alive. When you've a life of your own and you've interests of your own, that keeps you interesting. It keeps you multidimensional. And it just keeps the spice there. The spice of life is variety. So, and it's the same with the man. And also, the man, he needs to, for him, in order to get close to a woman, he needs to pull away. We read loads of things about pulling away. It's a common thing with men. Women don't need to do that. But the man, in order to be intimate and give you his best, and give himself all to you, he needs to retreat, because he needs to even build up his testosterone alone. That's just the biochemistry of men. They just need to be on their own to build up even the chemical, of testosterone. And us women don't realize that. And he'll come back, with his tank full, being able to give again. So leave him go. That's what I would say, and leave the women do their own thing as well.
Does your husband have a man cave?
He does. He does. It's the answer to no divorce.
I've probably got 3, I think. I've got my office here, the one upstairs, and then my summer house outside. I coach from all these places as well, but my wife doesn't always understand why I lock myself in one of these areas to get away. Thinks I'm just escaping the kids. Maybe I am sometimes. Let's be honest. There are times we all want to escape our noisy kids, particularly in lockdowns and holidays. I know that you'll appreciate that. What I think is really interesting, though, is that there are lots of misunderstandings because men and women do communicate different ways. But sometimes that's part of the fun, isn't it? If everyone understood each other, there'd be no conversations. You wouldn't have debates, and debates can be stimulating. And these are what helps you grow as a couple. Would you agree with that?
Definitely. And, there's the yin and the yang, like you just said, keeps things interesting. I think we're losing that as well in the modern world, the misunderstanding of it's us against them. It's men. No, men not versus women. It's not that. It's we're in it together. We're enhancing each other. It's the yin and the yang, the black and the white. When you look at it like that, and men need to feel needed. That's a big thing with men. And I think, that's the misunderstanding again with women in the modern world. We're career driven now. We have everything. We don't necessarily need, in inverted commas, men. But like we do, to have that, like you just said, the yin and the spice of life, to enhance our lives, to give us what we don't have ourselves. So we can't lose sight of that. And I think when we appreciate that in men, listen, this is what you have that I don't have. This is what you can do that I can't do. Like even my husband fixing our car, I can't do that. So it's a big thing. I'm like, oh my God, thank you so much, for fixing the car. And I really appreciate the different things we have. I think that's another big misunderstanding at the moment. If we get back to basics and appreciate the differences, that we have.
I agree. It's about not being taken for granted as well sometimes, isn't it? It's just saying thank you sometimes. Just saying thank you for what you do. I appreciate everything that you do for me. And men and women can both say this. And then you're going to grow and then hopefully spend the rest of your lives together because you are on the same team. It's not men versus women, is it? Like you said, it's finding out the perfect way of blending and having a companion that you can learn from and have new fun and adventures as time goes by. Frances, thank you so much. Talking of time going by, that is shot by now. Our podcast is over. And I could talk to you, like many of my guests, for a long, long time. And hopefully we'll do that again at some point. But thank you very much. If somebody wants to find out more about you, how could they find you? Do you have a website, a social media link?
Yeah, I'm on all the platforms of social media, including Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook. And my website is www.franceskellehercoaching.com.
Fantastic. Now, I know that you're on social media because you're very kind and you always follow and retweet all my postings. So I do appreciate that. That's me telling you that I appreciate it. There you go. Hopefully my listeners will learn from that.
Thank you so much, James. Thanks so much for having me.
You're very, very welcome. It's been an absolute pleasure. Have a great day. Thank you so much for listening. I'd love to give you a free copy of my latest book, which you can download right now from my website, jamespreece.com. If you enjoyed this podcast, I'd really appreciate it if you could share the love by taking a few seconds to write a positive review on the iTunes store right now. See you next time.